So what are more so your strategies for retaining your customers?
The experience that people have when they come into the stores, and that experience just has to be top notch. Like there are 200 dispensaries in the city and county of Denver. And so if you're not on your A game, people are just going to go to another store where they feel like they're treated better, or the products were better, or the pricing was better. So it's a lot of work on that side to always be looking to get new customers in there and always just presenting the most polished side of the business that we can.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Dispensary Marketing Podcast. I know it's been a little while, but as usual, I'm your host, Brandon Kwan, founder of Cannabis Marketing, the #1 marketing agency for cannabis dispensaries, both in Canada and the United States. And I'm joined here by Tim, the founder and CEO of Colorado Harvest Company. Welcome to the show, Tim. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Appreciate you having me. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, let's hop right into this. So I know we spoke a little bit about this before, but why don't you just give us a little bit of intro about, a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So Colorado Harvest Company is located in Denver. We have 3 retail stores and 2 production facilities. We started in October of 2009. So we just celebrated our 14th year in business. So I feel like we've seen all of it. We started off obviously as medical, and then we held 2 of the first 12 licenses in Denver that moved forward with recreational cannabis sales in 2014. And then just 2 years ago, we were issued the first recreational dispensary delivery license also in the state. And so we've just been on the cutting edge the entire time, just out in front and watching this whole thing develop. So it's been an interesting ride and a roller coaster at times, but also a really satisfying way to spend some time.
Awesome. So you said you started back in 2009, and we spoke a little bit about your career before then. So how did you get into the space in the first place? Where did you start?
Sure. So way back when. So I was a high school biology teacher for 10 years before I jumped into the cannabis space. And I was also participating in the medical marijuana program as a patient at that time. And part of that meant that you were allowed to grow 6 plants. And so being a biology person, I moved some boxes around in my basement and bought a light, and I just started playing around with it. And I was really fascinated with the science aspects of it, the nutrient feeding, the pest control, the environmental parts of growing, like the humidity and the CO2 and the overall climate that you have to make for these plants. And over the course of time, I got pretty good at it, to the point where I guess now, as I look back at it, it was a little bit crazy that I went from this little basement grow to transitioning into a warehouse. But that is honestly what gave me the confidence to be able to move forward and sign a lease. And I had a landlord who was interested in giving me an opportunity at that time. And I took it. And so I decided I could probably always go back to being a high school teacher if I wanted to do that again, but I might never have an opportunity to start this business. And so I went into it kind of blind, and it sort of has all worked out, and I've learned a lot along the way. But yeah, at the very beginning, it was Colorado Harvest Company was just a grow facility that was selling wholesale to the other retail stores that were opening in Denver. And then in 2010, the state of Colorado made this rule called vertical integration. And that meant if you owned a grow, you had to own a store. And if you owned a store, you had to own a grow. And so that's when the retail stores started to open up also.
Nice. So would you say your biology experience helped you with the A/B testing of figuring out what nutrients work well, what environments work well to grow, and, so on and so forth?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think half of biology is plants, the other half is animals. And so, yeah, of course, it absolutely helped. And I still really use it a lot today too, to be able to, now I have plant production people who are really dialed on this whole thing. And I'm not in there getting my fingernails dirty every single day, but I like that I can hang in a conversation with them, and we can talk nutrients, we can talk production schedules, we can talk about plants in a way that they understand plants also. The hardest part for me, honestly, was what you are really good at, was the marketing side of it, because I never done any marketing prior to that. And lucky for me, the plant sells itself pretty well too. So if you can produce fantastic plants, then all the other parts come a little bit easier.
Right. Right. So you did mention that you were one of the first to do a lot of things in this space, but I'm kind of curious about what was that transition like from going biology teacher to, growing some plants? Did you have conversations with your colleagues at the time? Did you have other friends that were like, Tim, what are you doing right now? Like,
Right.
what's going on? How was that?
So at that time, it was not nearly as well accepted socially
Okay.
in the country or in Colorado. So I didn't wave a flag around and tell everyone what I was doing. I did have to take my parents out to lunch, and that was on the day I signed the lease for the warehouse. I had to drive over to the school I was working at. It was summertime, and give them my letter of resignation, which was sad for me and sad for them, but I wasn't going to come back. And then I met my parents, and we went out for lunch, and I told my mom I quit my job and I signed this lease on this warehouse, and I was starting this business. And Brandon, she almost fell out of her chair. She did. It was like, oh my, what are you doing, kid? And at this point, like I said, 14 years down the road, they're very proud, and it's all worked out wonderfully, and it's been an interesting journey. But it was not until a little ways down the road that I started to really let people know what I was doing, because it started to really catch on in Colorado and really became like a legitimate business that was really making a difference in the economy here.
Right. So when you first started, again, just because it was so early, I would assume there was no blueprint to really kind of follow. So did you have any kind of mentors in other industries that could have kind of guided you? Or were you just like, walk, 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 trip, fall down, get back up, walk, 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 trip, fall down, get back up?
It was a lot like that.
Yeah.
There was not. So Colorado legalized medical marijuana in the year 2000. Mm-hmm. California legalized medical marijuana in the year 1997. So they were just a few years in front of us. Mm-hmm. But California's model is so different than what Colorado had in place. And California was mostly this delivery model without storefronts, and there was a lot of there wasn't the tracking systems in place for how the plants move through what's called the metric system, which is the interface between a company and the state, and how they watch how we manufacture plants and then distribute them to the retail stores. So none of that really existed. So it was a lot of meeting other people who were struggling in the space and trying to do the right thing. Also, an industry group formed up that we're still a part of that's called the Marijuana Industry Group. And that put a lot of like-minded people together in the same room and gave us an opportunity to have some of those discussions about what's working and what's not working and how are you guys doing this? Because, there were challenges from everything from getting insurance for the company to how do you make payroll if payroll companies wouldn't work with us. Sure. We just started to run into a lot of issues with these different groups that wouldn't have anything to do with us. That, as it turns out, you really need their support to run a business. Like at the beginning, the banks said they wouldn't work with us. And so there was a period of time where we ran the business in cash. And that is at some point impossible. Like you just cannot go get enough money orders, and it takes all day to do payroll. And so there are some things that were really difficult at the beginning that have sort of worked themselves out now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So were those also the biggest issues you faced when you opened up, I would say, like the first store? Because you're on your third store right now, correct?
Correct.
So I guess what was the biggest difference between opening up the first store versus the third store?
It was, I was much better at it by the third time.
You'd hope so. Yeah.
I learned some tough lessons along the way, but still, we're in Denver, Colorado, and I understand you're in Toronto, and just the climate is completely different. Trying to run a business that the federal government doesn't recognize still has a lot of hurdles to work through. There's, like I said, there are still the majority of insurance companies won't work with us. The banking thing is still an issue for us. So it's so much more than what is the retail flow and how should the countertops be organized and how many point of sales do we need in here. Those were things that we had figured out by the third store. But there's still the challenges of working through just a business environment that doesn't like the business is still presents its own set of challenges. So I am hopeful that the United States catches up with Canada here quickly and we start being able to work within the system that is established for businesses like the banking system.
Right. So you're optimistic for the future, at least.
Eternally, I'm always thinking it's right around the corner, and
Yeah.
like I said, 14 years of saying it's right around the corner is start. I mean, it's getting old,
It's
but
almost there.
but it is. We're closer than we've ever been to making some real changes
Right.
that are going to really help propel this entire industry forward. And we just finished the first 10 years of recreational cannabis, so January 2014. So I really hope the second decade of legal cannabis in Colorado is very different than the first decade.
Well, congratulations. I mean, you would what people would call an OG in the space,
Ooh.
a pioneer, you are now someone that other people can learn from. And I think the people that are listening to this podcast, I just had somebody reach out recently from New York, in Buffalo. They're like, we're just starting. We just got legalized. We're just starting these things. And here you've been in the game for however many years, not including when you started to grow. So, I think that's one of the good things about, a medium like this. We're talking about technology being helpful or a hindrance depending on what issues are going on. But I think this is definitely one of the things that, are going to contribute to at least accelerating the growth in this space. So thanks again for hopping on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you said you had most of your things dialed in by the time of the third store, like you said, the POS system and stuff like that. Opening up your third store would probably mean that your first and second store were successful, or at least successful enough for you to want to go into the gauntlet of opening up a third one. So
Sure.
as of right now, kind of like, what would you say your general marketing mix is to bring in some customers?
Sure. So marketing in cannabis is, again, different than marketing for anything else, primarily because of what the regulations around that look like. So Denver early on decided to have a outdoor advertising ban, which is very restrictive. It means that when you drive through Denver, there's no billboards for cannabis. It's not on the sides of the public transportation. It's not really anywhere. You have to look for it yourself. So we're allowed to advertise on our website or on our building, but anywhere else that we choose to promote ourselves has to be a medium that has a proven 21 plus viewership on it. And so we've taken that's taken us down all sorts of rabbit holes, and some of them have worked and some of them have not. One of the most proud things that we've done along the way is we are the headline sponsor for a group that's called Levitt Pavilion. And Levitt Pavilion is a nonprofit organization that started in New York, and there are 7 Levitt Pavilions around the country now. And what Levitt Pavilion does is looks for these underutilized public areas like a big park, and they put in an amphitheater there, and then they give free concerts. So that's their medium that they use to interact with the neighborhood that they're in.
Nice.
And they were looking for capital donations, and we gave a significant capital donation to Levitt Pavilion. Now, it turns out that Levitt Pavilion sits in a Denver City Park, and so we had to work with the Denver City Council as a cannabis organization. And it turns out we're not advertising there, we're sponsoring Levitt Pavilion. And so through that sponsorship, we're allowed to fly our flag there. And this is Levitt Pavilion's 6th year now, and they have just done a fantastic job. They're putting on, 75 concerts every summer. They're wildly well attended. It's been a great thing for us to be able to do in coordination with a local organization that I think is doing a really good job. Another place that we work is in music clubs, and we'll do the wristbands for a music club and put a QR code on there so people can scan onto our website and sort of see what we're about too. But it's always something, just a little bit different than what everyone else is doing. It's not a ad in the newspaper. It's trying to reach our target audience is just requires a little more forethought into it, and making sure that we don't violate the rules that are laid out for us too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's the first time out of however many conversations I've had, you're the first one that has kind of figured out a way to do the offline advertising without doing offline advertising, right? I think immediately as somebody says, like you said, you can't do outdoor advertising, can't do bus shelter ads or bus ads or billboard ads or whatever it is. They're like, okay, I'm just going to hang my head up. I can't do anything, right? But you were able to find a way, find a good growth partner that is beneficial in all fronts to kind of grow that. And I always tell people, if you're not looking to become this massive nationwide chain and be a big MSO or whatever it is, you really need to become city famous, right? You just need to become the best known in your city. Don't worry about trying to compete against these guys that have hundreds of thousands of dollars of marketing budget or whatever it is. So if I had like a little golden nugget emoji to put on here, that's definitely what I would put on here. So that's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I really like how you think about that, because that's how I think about it also. So when we started in 2009, this was a lot of little mom and pop owned places, and every store was owned by just a couple people, and those people worked in the stores. And so it was very hands-on from the owner's perspective. Now, fast forward 14 years into today, and you do have these big multi-state operators out there. Now there are these giants walking around on the playing field also. And they don't even play with their own money. These are publicly traded companies that have deeper pockets and more resources than what I consider a Colorado Harvest Company to have. And so we do have to be a little more nimble and a little bit better at what we do, and a little more polished at how we present ourselves, because we're not trying to take over the world, but we are trying to take over the neighborhoods that we operate in a way that is just beneficial for the neighborhood and beneficial for the business.
Right. 100%. So those are some of the ways that it sounds like you gain awareness for people that may not know that you exist already. What are more so your strategies for retaining your customers? So in the marketing space, they always say, hey, it's probably easier to get a customer who's paid with you to come back than it is to continually get new customers. So do you have like a system put in place so that you can try and ensure that people keep on coming back who have already purchased from you?
Sure. So we work really closely with a group called Alpine IQ, and they are a loyalty points program. And so it's been amazing to work through this program, because as a consumer in the world, you participate in these programs, whether it's the little thing you scan at the grocery store, and it seems like there's not much data involved in that from the customer standpoint. You're just accumulating some points, and every once in a while there's a discount on your side. But what it also allows the other side to do is to understand that customer much better, and to know when they're shopping and what they prefer to buy, how much money they usually spend, the frequency they're coming into the stores, so that we can start to send them promotional offers that are exactly what they want. It starts to learn who this person is. So if I'm a big flower person and occasionally buy edibles, it's not going to send me a coupon for concentrates. It's going to send me a coupon for exactly what I like to purchase. And so through that loyalty points program, I feel like we're able to service a lot of the people that are our repeat customers very well. But there's the other side of that too, and that is you can't keep going back to that same well. You have to be able to get new customers in the door also, and that is more of a challenge. And so we sort of have this points and rewards system on just autopilot, if you will. It's doing its thing. It works great. We send out a text blast and communicate with people through that. It's that other side that trying to recruit the new customers in that we put more focus onto that side. But so much of it too is the experience that people have when they come into the stores. And that experience just has to be top notch. Like there are 200 dispensaries in the city and county of Denver. And so if you're not on your A game, people are just going to go to another store where they feel like they're treated better, or the products were better, or the pricing was better. So it's a lot of work on that side to always be looking to get new customers in there, and always just presenting the most polished side of the business that we can.
For sure. So you did mention the in-store stuff. So what do you do? So what are your, I would say, do you have like a framework? Do you have a couple pillars? So like you said, you have the 3 stores. So when you do launch these stores, like what are the main things that you're looking for to ensure that these are the things from an in-store experience perspective that needs to get done across our entire brand? Like what are those things?
Sure. So we started with an interior designer to really help us make the stores just be on point. We wanted the stores to be something that when people walk in, they go, oh, this is comfortable in here. This doesn't feel like a dorm room or a weird shopping experience. This feels like a nice retail experience in here. So all of our stores have these polished concrete floors. They all use a lot of beetle kill pine, and then they also have these Edison lights all over. And so even though they're all different, when you walk in, there's some continuity to the actual physical layout in there. And then the other part that we decided early on was it seems like these stores go one of 2 ways. One way is try to be the Walmart of
Sure.
cannabis. Just do this high volume, huge discounts. Just how many people can we get through this place? As an operator of 3 locations, I don't feel like we compete well in that market at all. And I think I feel like that group of people who like to shop there are also hard to retain their loyalty. So we took a completely different approach, and we decided to be more like the microbreweries in Denver. We're not trying to compete with Molson Coors. We're trying to compete as a tiny boutique producer that just carries the best in every category. So we only carry the best flowers, the best concentrates, the best edibles. And that has allowed us to separate ourselves from these larger MSO chains that are, I mean, currently I saw $35 ounces. I mean, there's just, that's not anything you're going to find in our store. It's something you're going to find, down the way if that's what you're looking for, but you also get what you pay for. And so it feels like they trick customers into coming in and then sell them like just low grade products everywhere. So yes, you can get it for cheap, but it's not going to be as good.
Are you sure? You didn't have any marketing skills or anything like that? Because everything you're telling me so far has been absolutely on the ball, right? It's like, your competition is not the multi-million-dollar operations that can crush you just by landing their bank account on your dispensary, and that's about it, right? It's about establishing yourself as a niche in this space and having products that people will like and ensuring people will come back, right? Like, but I think that's a pitfall that a lot of entrepreneurs fall in. They say, oh, just because I can do everything, I should do everything, right? Similar in our space, in the marketing space, they're like, oh, yes, I can do website designs and do SEO for everyone, so I should serve everyone. But no, like there are small nuances that you need to kind of show, because then I wouldn't be able to have conversations with you about the small nuances, because you'd be like, Brandon, what are you talking about? That applies for dog walkers or whatever it is. So super on the ball with everything you got going on.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think one of the other challenges that we faced in Colorado and across the nation here is social media is a place where a lot of businesses are able to purchase ads and get a following and communicate with their customers. And it's been a frustrating experience for us. We will build up our social media, like our Instagram account, to 25, 30,000 followers, and then it's gone the next day. And then we have to start over. And we're shadow banned on our names. It's just, that part has been a difficult marketing experience over and over, like running your head into a brick wall. And so we've really stepped away from that because it's just too much. It's too much effort, and it's too heartbreaking to put all that effort in and then have it gone. I would really like to see Instagram just charge me for a business account. They know what we're doing. We're a legal licensed business in Denver, Colorado, where cannabis is legal. They should allow us to do our marketing to our customers through their platform, and we would pay for that. We're not looking for a free ride.
It is tricky. I mean, I do see, like, and again, I have this conversation all the time. People come to me like, hey, Brandon, do you do social media? I'm like, yes and no. If you were to pay $1 million to do social media, we can do it tomorrow. But from I'm telling you what works and what really doesn't work, it's probably a very low leverage opportunity, because like you said, we will work on your account, get you up to 20,000 followers, and then boom, it's gone the next day. And then what ends up happening is we need to restart. So I actually came across a Instagram channel of a company that sells, it's like CBD hemp products, online delivery, in the same boat of being suspended and stuff like that, right? But this guy is something really interesting. And he created this kind of like semi-viral Instagram page. And I think it's Santa Cruz Medicinals. I don't know if you know them, but it's this guy that goes into like grocery stores and he reads the ingredients on different grocery store items, and then essentially says, this is healthy and this isn't healthy, right? And that kind of blew up on the TikToks, on the Instagrams. He got mentioned on Joe Rogan and stuff like that. And he doesn't ever promote Santa Cruz Medicinals. It's just a link in his bio, and he just has a bunch of followers there. So I thought that was an interesting kind of Trojan horse secret method to kind of get into like the social media thing, is that if you can build a page that is kind of related to the things that you're doing, but make it really, really fun and make it not about even selling product, showing product or anything like that available, that might be an interesting way for you to kind of break into the social media space, at least for now when pages are getting banned, because
Sure.
You get banned, you submit the reinstatement, and then Instagram people, if the person's having a good day or a bad day, will let you back in or won't, right? But if you clearly have a page which is just like maybe a health-oriented page as a whole, you're like, hey, I'm just promoting health things, right? Like I'm not have anything to do with cannabis, CBD, hemp, or anything like that. So that might be, a strategy. And then I could share with you the guy's social media channel after.
Oh, that's great. No, that's a good tip. It's a good tip.
So back on the product selection. So you mentioned how that's like kind of your one of the key pillars of like what you guys do as a whole. So what is your system around kind of like curating your product selection, taking customer feedback, understanding which customers are actually providing valuable feedback versus ones that are just like saying, hey, I saw this and thing just for convenience, can you put it in the store? What is your process kind of, and you don't have to tell me any trade secrets or anything like that, but overall kind of like, what is that process of curating products in your store, and like, how do you rotate products, and what does that look like?
Yeah, it's great. So I look at the store as having three main categories. There's flower, there's edibles, and there's concentrates. Inside of each one of those categories, the store needs to represent a certain number of products to the customer base. So in the edibles category, there are drinks, there are chocolates, and there's gummies. Do you need to have 10 chocolates, or can you get away with 3 chocolates? You need how many gummies, lines of gummy products do you need to have? So we've gone through that with each one of those categories and broken them down into those smaller subcategories. And then we just look for who is doing that the absolute best. What is out there? So we do that from one, spending time in the stores and talking to our customers who are purchasing those products. That's one of the easiest ways. But also everyone's got an online menu now. So we shop online menus all the time. I have to know, one, what my competition is carrying and what they're pricing it at. And then over time, as you watch these menus, you start to get a sense of how quickly do they move products through their stores. Are you seeing the same things week after week after week? It means those products don't really sell through there, versus someone who's always has refreshed things coming through are doing a better job. So just doing the homework to figure out what are the best brands in each category is how we make our selections to figure out what gets on the shelf. And then more than just placing an order, then we would get samples from that vendor. We would do the samples out through our staff, and then we get feedback from the staff. And as long as they like it, then we would go ahead and place an order and just see how it goes. Right. But if the bud tenders don't like a product, they're never going to sell it. They have to, the staff has to be involved with it. So it is kind of a slow process to be able to figure those things out. But I feel like now we have the time to take that time to go through it and make sure everyone's on board, that we really like and think we can sell that product, and we have a place for it on our shelves. Like, I look at our shelves as a rental space to these vendors. Like, they are renting the space on our shelves, and we need to make sure that the products that are up there are paying rent, and that we're actually seeing something back from that. So that's kind of a long answer to what seems like how do you just get stuff on the shelves? But it's very important to the image of the company and who we relate to when people walk in the door, and the brands that they see that we carry on our shelves.
Right. So I know for like a lot of those like fast food chains, if you will, like, I guess out there, Sonic's or something like that, Dunkin' Donuts, they do trial runs in different cities. So if they want to release some sort of new dessert, they would try it in maybe 50 stores out of their 500 stores and, kind of test it out there. Do you have that same system where you kind of test it out in one store, and if it works in one store, it works in the other ones? Are you testing multiple times in all 3 stores? What does that look like?
Right. So we do exactly that. Okay. But we're not trying to model the fast food chains, but that's just an easy way to be able to see, does a product work or not for us. So we have one location that's out in Aurora, which is a suburb of Denver, and it's by far and away our busiest store. And so when we're going to test something out, that's where we bring it in, because if it sits on the shelf in that store, it's going to sit on the shelf in any one of our stores. So if it flies off the shelf there, we know we'll be able to move it everywhere else. So we also are always trying to support these local vendors. So cannabis in Colorado is a very farm to table idea. It has to be locally produced in Colorado. It's not allowed to cross the border into other states. Everything has to be consumed right here. So when I say farm to table, like it is farm to table. Everything it's made here, it's sold here, it's consumed here. And so we have this neat little ecosystem that we get to operate in where we can all support each other through these great vendor relationships. And so being in tight with the vendors and making sure, one, they get paid on time, that we're placing our orders in a way that helps them fulfill them, that we have what we need on our shelves when we need it, is what we're looking for. And then we like to take it to the next level too. And that is, can we tag each other on social media? Do you guys have anything that we can cross-reference? Can we link to you in our websites? Do you guys have any blogs that you're working on? Because we'd like to do all of that. And so then we start to coordinate. And then, not too far down the line, then our staff is wearing someone's shirts and they're dropping off hats. And then all of a sudden everyone is blinged out in, new vendor products. And it's just like such a neat organic way to see the whole process just come full circle. And those are the vendors that we enjoy working with the most.
Right. So I guess that would kind of perfectly go into the next question about, so you want to have high quality product and niche products so that the people, you stand out from, the different consumers in this space, and you're not just kind of the generalist for everything. So then what products you want just based on your competitive research, just based on the samples that you're given. And so then now we are given the actual relationship with the vendors and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you go about managing the vendor relationships? Do you only work with people who you get along with? Obviously, that's like the baseline. Or are you like, well, if they have a good product, they have a good product. Like, let's, move forward with that. How do you kind of go about managing vendor relationships, quality control of product, that sort of thing? Like, what does that process look like?
Sure. It's a full-time job in and of itself. So that really falls to the operations person in the business. And she does a fantastic job with those vendor relationships and making sure that it is all working, that, what we're getting, what we order, that the products are coming out at the same quality consistently. One thing we really enjoy doing with these vendors too are these joint ventures. So we have our own production facilities, and there's always, I like to think of the cannabis plant like a buffalo. Like we don't waste any part of this plant. Like we do have to throw away the stems and the root ball, but the rest of the sugar leaf that comes off there that could not be sold as flour, it's sold off to vendors, and then it either comes back to us in the form of edibles that we do joint ventures with, or it comes back in the form of concentrates that are extracted. So we can have our name next to a vendor that we're really excited about on the same package. And that has been a neat little hook to put vendors, right next to us on the shelves. And it gives us a project to work on and a marketing thing to work on, and just a common goal that we want to do it again and they want to do it again. And it worked out well for everyone. So it just keeps right on rolling. And it allows us to be able to use a product out of our production facility that otherwise would probably find its way into the trash because there's just nothing else to do with it.
Sure. So I guess on to the next one is that it sounds like you have a really awesome team and people. So, I would say the success of a business is the culmination is the sum of all the assets it has. And a massive part of the assets, it's not just the material things, it's the people that are part of it, right? It's all the way top to bottom. Like if you have bud tenders that are not having a bad day and they, cuss out your customers, then obviously that's not a good thing, right? So over time, as you've been kind of like building out all of these kind of assets, right? What is do you first interview when you have a good person? Does it take a little bit of time? And then once you find the good person, like how do you really retain them? Because just like retaining good customers, you also want to retain good employees as well.
Right. So the people that work at Colorado Harvest Company are the most important asset that we have.
Exactly.
There are lots of people who can grow plants.
Yeah.
We have people who can grow plants who are also nice to the other people that they work with.
Right.
And having turnover at any level in the company is just so much time and effort that's you just lose once you have someone trained up and they understand the processes. To have that person take a job somewhere else, not only are they taking that information with them, but they're also, now you have to start over with someone new.
Yeah.
So I do feel like the interview process is important, and part of that is it is just making sure you have reliable people that are going to show up. But we try to be a good partner in that also. So Colorado Harvest Company has paid time off. We have a health insurance program, a vision program, a dental program that we participate in on the employee's behalf. We have just things in place like employee discount programs that allow people to really a matching 401k. There's another thing so we try to offer things that other stores are not offering, and it means that we pay above average wages and we offer benefits that you're not going to see at every dispensary location around town. But it also means that when you walk into my stores, you see the same people all the time. We're not just a rotating door of new faces. We have people that have been with us really since the very beginning. I think I'm definitely the oldest, well, literally the oldest, but also the longest employee in the organization. But there are people that have been with me for 12 years on this project now, and I hope they're with me for another 12 because they're just fantastic to be around, and we all have common goals and they understand the culture of the business as much as anything else. So when a new person comes in, it's not just like starting work, it's like joining the family. Like
exactly.
We're part of our culture now. And so this is how we do things, and you will learn because the people around you are going to be really helpful in showing you that. And I think it just creates an environment that people want to be able to spend their time in. It's a great place to work.
Yeah. It's like, when you can attract the A level talent, the top level talent, you want to make sure you retain them. Similar to the customers, right? You have really good customers that will shout your company name, bring in all the referrals and stuff like that. And you just kind of do the things to make them happy. You essentially align the incentives so they want to continue to stay, because there's, just in my, I would say, minor experience talking with other dispensary owners and stuff like that, I do see kind of like the opposite, which is kind of the unfortunate, where it's like, okay, let's find the college student where I can possibly pay the lowest wage, and then they're churning employees and it actually costs them more money because they now have to keep on training employees, and then there's hiring issues because they don't have the incentives lined up. But it sounds like are you sure you don't run like little marketing, have any marketing stuff before then? This is all trial and error?
This is all trial and error. But it's also, I feel like it's all common sense too. If you have a really valuable resource, you need to take care of it. And our most valuable resource is our people. So taking care of them first and foremost is the most important part of the business. The second most important part is our customers, and then our plants. So we all understand that too. And so we're all on the same page there, and we all do a good job taking care of our top priorities.
Awesome. Super, super glad to hear. So, you're hitting your anniversary. What do you think is going to happen over the next 10-ish years? What do you see the future of cannabis, happening?
Well, we would really like to catch up with Canada. That would be fantastic. Federal legalization would be just like, to me, that's the end of the road. Like, we can't leave before that happens, and I also can't miss that part. So having participated in this up to that point, it's that is the goal for us. And I think it's closer than it's ever been, but it's still not here, and it's not going to happen in 2023 because all of our people all just went on vacation at the federal level until January. So I'm pretty sure nothing's passing now. So we're going to wait until 2024. It's going to change the whole industry.
100%.
Right now we have this interstate commerce clause is what it's called. And so cannabis cannot move from state to state. Once that's gone at the federal level, so for example, Budweiser beer has their Midwest distribution plant about an hour north of Denver. They don't rebuild one of those in every single state hoping that they can do their distribution on the small local level. They're sending those trucks all over the Western United States from that location. You're going to start to see cannabis companies consolidate like that also. We're going to be able to place orders from Oregon and Washington and California and New York and New Jersey and have boxes of cannabis that show up from these various places. So when we're looking for high-end boutique brands, right now we just shop this very small Colorado market. Once federal legalization happens, we're going to be able to shop a much larger market, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I anticipate we have better access to banks and loans. We have better insurance opportunities. We have just different doors are going to start to open for us that have been closed the entire time that we've been operating. And it's going to be refreshing and scary and exciting all again. And we're going to have to figure out some things to stay relevant and make sure that we are on the cutting edge of what people are looking for when they're shopping at our locations.
Right. So one of the biggest benefits of essentially expanding the geographical area you can reach is that, you can have access to more customers and have access to more opportunities to work with different people. That also means you have access to more competition. So do you just kind of the way things are now, do you think you're ready for if/when that happens? Or do you think you need to, kind of work on a few things before then?
Well, Colorado's market is very mature.
Right.
So we've been around the longest now with the legalization in 2014. Colorado was the very first one in the country. And so I feel like we have been around this competition and it keeps notching up every year. You can't show up with the same game you did last year. It better be better every single year.
Yeah.
And so presenting that very polished, very educated idea about what the company is and how we can best serve our customers is how we continue moving forward with the competition. We will always do better next year than we did last year. Are we ready for it on a national scale? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a whole different thing. I think mail order will all of a sudden be something that's real. That's not true right now. So not one box of cannabis has ever been packaged up and mailed out of Colorado or out of our retail stores. And that I think will be something in the future that we can start to take a look at. We could ship products around the country, and it will be, it'll just be a whole different ballgame that no one's played yet. So there will be opportunities, and there will be people who don't rise to the occasion, and there will be a lot that do. And I think we're just savvy enough at this point. I think we'll be just fine.
That's exciting. I mean, as we've discussed at length in this call, you've been an OG, a pioneer in this space for so long. Previous evidence has provided that it would be unreasonable for you not to succeed in the future just because of everything that's been done so far. Fancy way of saying, hey, I have a lot of experience. I've done the thing. I've walked the walk. I've talked the talk. So bring on the next challenge. So everything that you're saying, I 100% believe, you got it in the bag. So I got your back.
I appreciate that.
So what's next, I guess, more so in the shorter time period, for you? You're looking to open up more stores? Are you looking to kind of delegate more of your responsibilities? What does that, what's next for you?
So we're always interested in opening more retail stores. But Colorado has really sort of built itself out in terms of making that a possibility. Right. So you see in Denver, there's been a cap on the licenses since 2014. So you see licenses change hands, but not new locations opening up. So sometimes there's a new sign on a store that was there previously, but it's been difficult to be able to expand. I like my nice little life. I can get around to all of the stores in a half an hour.
Yep.
They're all geographically located in the city here. And then I can also get over to our production facilities too. And I don't have to, fly to Oklahoma for the weekend to check on something or spend my days traveling. I can, live and work here and be able to make this happen. I think once the federal legalization comes and the giants walking around, these big MSOs are able to get bank funding again, I think you'll start to see a lot more consolidation. And I'm open to that idea also.
Right. Would you ever look into kind of acquiring one of the smaller guys?
So sure, and we do have those conversations too, but it's difficult because if someone's interested in selling at this point, it probably means there's some issues along the way there too, whether it's a location issue or they just haven't done a good job with customer retention, or it just means it's going to be a lot of work to revitalize a store. People who have these gems around town that are doing well, like Colorado Harvest Company are not open to selling it at this point. So everything's just kind of on hold until some of the rules change here, because I think I'm not the only one that sees the future looking pretty bright and right around the corner.
Right. Well, I mean, we're in a growing market despite we're in the growth of the market itself. So overall, we're going to see it go from here to here. But as we're in the actual present, it's going to be like, up and down. You look back at a lot of these stocks and stuff like that. Everyone's like, yeah, I wish I bought Amazon back in the day. Like, did you really, when it was going like this up and down? Like, who knows, right? So yeah, I think that's always interesting because you have a set of expertise and knowledge inside your head and your SOPs and your systems built out. And it would be an interesting conversation to see if, you can just essentially take that system and put it into another business. Should they have all the foundations of, let's say they have their location, right? Because that's something you really can change, right? The store, landlord, rent, blah, 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 that's all set. And if it's just like a customer thing, that you could put in 2-3 people that will absolutely crush it. And you're going to increase the recurring people that come in, lifetime value of customers go up, and then boom, the value of that goes up. Kind of like a value-added partner, which would be super interesting. Just, if the new licenses aren't coming out. So yeah, that would be, I'll keep my eye on you. I'll see what you got going on. So I guess the last thing is, with all of the experience and expertise you have, what would you say to a dispensary owner who's looking to take it to the next level? And you can define next level however you want, but if you were to impart a couple nuggets of wisdom onto another dispensary owner listening, what would you say that they should focus on?
I think just being an active part of the organization is the most important part of running this. Growing cannabis and selling cannabis at a retail store is a very hands-on experience. And in my mind, you have to be there to make sure that all the little parts are working just like you want them to. So that's another reason that I like the size of Colorado Harvest Company, because you can really keep an eye on everything going on. I couldn't imagine trying to run a similar organization from out of state or run multiple organizations that are not right here underneath my nose. So I also think not drinking from a fire hose is important too. Like, you cannot bite off too many pieces of this elephant. You're going to have to sit down with a fork and a knife and take little bites of the whole thing. You cannot, like you said earlier, be everything to everyone. So doing production and running retail is definitely a full-time job. There are plenty of people that have one or the other as a full-time job. We just sort of evolved in this vertically integrated market where that was part of the requirement. So it would be beyond the scope of anything that I would want to do to start a edible company at this point and produce edibles. Like, that's a whole different discipline, and it's just not something that I feel like we could do well. So having our focus on our plant production and growing the very best plants we can, and then keeping our other focus on our retail stores and providing the very best customer service that we can is the key to success for us. I talk to a lot of people who are, so excited to jump in, and they're going to do everything and end up doing none of it well. So
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none type thing,
I think that's an easy trap to fall into in a business space where you can see so much opportunity, and entrepreneurs love that. They love to be able to see the opportunity and then get their hands in all these different things. It turns out it's difficult to do that. And having a good focus on what you do best is probably the place you'll find the most success.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Lastly, where can people find you if they want to get in touch?
So I am Big Green Flower on social media everywhere. So Instagram and Twitter, and where else would I be? I'm also Tim at ColoradoHarvestCompany.com if you want to shoot me an email. And, or swing by and visit our retail stores in Denver, Colorado, and we'd love to see you.
Awesome. Well, Tim, thank you very much for hopping on the show. To everyone who's listening, thank you very much for listening. Like I said, I'm your host, Brandon Kwan, founder of Cannabis Marketing, the #1 marketing agency for dispensaries, both in Canada and the United States. Until next time, talk to you guys later. Bye.